on X, on YouTube, and on Facebook. Thanks for joining me. Today we will be talking about this war in Iran. We will talk about what the moral implications are of stopping sanctioning yourself by joking about killing other people, i.e., the process of moral disengagement. Talk a little bit about propaganda and how it works in wars, and talk about Joe Kent. So this one's going to be very war forward. You might even say it's a war without a strategy. Let's go.
Coming to you live from the heart of the free state of New Hampshire, this is The Independence with Carla Gericke. And now, here's your host, Carla Gericke.
Hi, guys, and welcome back to The Independence. It is the week of March 18th, and I'm delighted to be beaming back into your homes and, of course, streaming online on X, YouTube, and Facebook. Thank you so much for joining me. Today is going to be a war forward episode because we are at war, and once we're at war, that means there's a war on your mind. There is propaganda all in the mix, and I believe it is my job to help you discern what is really going on, what you can do personally to make sure you're getting the real facts and understanding how toxic and outrage driven social media is, and how it is both distracting you and manipulating you. And if you find yourself being the kind of person who is joking about killing people, which I get is dark humor and it's supposed to be funny, but I would like to caution you that that is a red flag that your mind has been hijacked, and I'm going to show you how. I was in South Carolina over the weekend visiting my father. We had planned a belated 80th birthday party because no one could get there in February. Unfortunately, my niece broke her knee, so my sister had to go. Anyway, long story short, it was just me, my dad, and my brother-in-law over the weekend. Why am I telling you that? Because that means I got to watch some CNN, which I don't typically do. Indeed, I don't really watch mainstream news or television at all. And so every time I do, I'm literally gobsmacked at the nonsense on TV. And it is very evident when you are not part of the propaganda news cycles, whether it's Fox or whether it's CNN, how distorted the way we are communicating things are. It also meant that I, on the way home, at the bookstore, stopped and got a few magazines. I used to subscribe to The Economist for many years and stopped when it kind of started getting a little out there and very annoying with sort of narratives, forms of propaganda. At the time, it was a lot of the climate change stuff. But since I was traveling, I thought, oh, let me grab this. And I grabbed the Vanity Fair as well. And it is true. We are in a war with no strategy. Also, while sort of flipping through the TV channels there, I was shocked and appalled at the press conferences that Pete Hegseth, our Minister of War, I suppose is his role, was giving, because it really almost seemed like a literal clown show. Like the guy seemed like he was a character from a bad movie or a good movie, a satirical movie, where he was playing the role much like thank you for not smoking or thank you for smoking, sort of a lobbyist kind of role, where he was talking in his neat little suit, and he's just like, don't worry, we got it. Well, as far as I can tell, they don't have it. So first of all, if it is true, as being claimed on social media, that no one had a plan for when Iran might close the Strait of Hormuz, then you should get fired. Because if no one thought of that, I don't know what to tell you. It is such an obvious thing that would have happened and that indeed did happen. And what is the impact of that closure? Isn't just about oil, although this is a war for energy. It is always a war for energy when we're mucking around in the Middle East. But many other products, vital products for food production. Nitrogen and urea have to come through. More than 20% of the world's fertilizer comes from that region. There is a very short growing window. So if that fertilizer does not get out of the strait, then many places will not be able to grow food for this season, which of course will have severe knock-on effects, including potential famines. That is just one example. Turns out there's a lot of chips that go through there, a lot of important metals, right? So the fact that these people from the administration can get up there and just kind of blasely claim they know what they're doing does not appear to be the case. All right, so also on this trip, I had a few extra hours. So I actually sat through the entire conversation with Bret Weinstein and Tucker Carlson on a podcast where they sort of discussed what they perceived was going on. Subsequent to that, if you haven't followed this part, Tucker Carlson is now being investigated by, I believe, the CIA or, well, the FBI for being a foreign agent because he traveled to the Middle East and interviewed various people as this war plan was developing. So I highly recommend maybe listen to that conversation, go hear what that's about. So Tucker Carlson apparently now will be having Joe Kent on his show very soon. Who is Joe Kent? Joe Kent was the director of National Counterterrorism Center. He worked under Tulsi Gabbard, who all of you may recall we Free Staters brought out a couple of years ago. I have met her several times. She seems like a fairly honorable lady. She, has always had a strong anti-war stance as someone who did see combat, much like this Joe Kent guy. So Joe Kent yesterday resigned from his position as the director of Counterterrorism Center. Why did he resign? He said that there was no imminent threat and that he could not in good conscience continue to work for this administration. So let's stop a little bit at the word imminent. I suggest everyone go Google it. IMMINENT. Do you know what that word actually means? It means about to happen. So do you know what is not imminent? Something that takes 40 years. So you may or may not have seen the clip of Bibi Netanyahu from the 80s routinely claiming that Iran is an imminent nuclear threat. So why am I going to harp on this particular word? Because words matter, and words and the truth are the first thing, or the first or second, well, the true saying is the first casualty of war is truth, right? But we have to look at the definitions of words so that we can make up our minds about who is lying to us. So Bret Weinstein this morning shared this article. The article is called Weapons of Mass Distraction: How Cognitive and Influence Warfare is Being Waged Against You. This was written by someone, I'm going to assume this is a nom de plume, called Champagne Joshi. And you can find the work on We the Free Substack. So weapons of mass distraction. So of course there we hear a play on words from distraction, back to weapons of mass destruction, which is the last time an American administration lied you into war, like they did with this war, because there was no imminent threat, and apparently there was no plan. This is a disaster, and no one should be supporting this war. So I highly recommend folks go read this article. It is very long. It will give you a sense of sort of the mind control that is going on with this whole thing. But the first part I want to talk about is the following. So the story we're being told about this war is that America, at the behest of Israel, and Israel, this is an Israeli war that has really no substantive benefit to America, and we should pass the defend the guard. So they initiated an offensive campaign as purely defensive, preeminent, and morally necessary. So let's stand still with the words offensive and defensive for a moment, right? So the claim is there was this imminent threat, and so they had to be taken out. Now, I've already proven there was no imminent threat, because you can't say something is about to happen forever. That is lunacy on the face of it, right? So defensive is supposed to be like self-defense, i.e., something is literally about to happen. This guy's about to punch you in the face and you push him away. That's self-defense, right? We used to call it the Department of Defense. Under Trump, I believe it was the second term, but they changed the name to the Department of War. Now, at the time, I thought they were just, flexing their muscles and being like the bros, right? But no, it turns out they are the Department of War. So they are saying that they're behaving defensively while actually behaving offensively. And just because I love the English language, that one can be spelled with an S or a C. I find war offensive in the true sense of the word, as in it offends my sensibilities, and it should offend your sensibilities as well. So flipping this thing between offense and defense is a classic propaganda technique that involves the deliberate inversion of offensive and defensive in direct opposition to reality. Now, if you can't see that, I can't help you. But all three of the LLMs on Grok, by the way, side note for a second, I do enough work with Grok to parse things out, and I'm very skeptical. So I will, do a 30-question query to really get to the point I'm trying to get at. So I recently discovered there are 3 extra agents that they'll bring in. These are sort of subsets of Grok. They are called Harper, Benjamin, and Lucas. Extra side note, apparently Harper, yes, is from To Kill a Mockingbird. Benjamin, yes, is Benjamin Franklin. And Lucas, I believe, although I couldn't really find a confirmation of this, is for Star Wars. So that's very cute. But all 3 of these agents or sub-agents of Grok independently confirmed this cross-referenced historical and analytical sources that they always do this flip between offensive and defensive. It's a core tactic. An initiating party, the one launching first scale strikes, portrays its action as purely reactive, morally righteous, and necessary to prevent an imminent harm. This flips objective reality. Offensive campaigns, you fired first on a massive scale, which is exactly what happened, becomes preeminently necessary. So it is a magic trick that they do in plain sight, and it is up to you to not accept that. All right, so it's a classic because It's a linguistic and moral flip. Offensive sounds aggressive and optional, whereas defensive makes you sound like it's obligatory or heroic. So, under just war theory, of course, which is, when people say, oh, I can't attack you before you attack me because I'm stopping evil, well, sort of disregarding that, you know what, in war, all blood runs red. Um, so public and media are far more willing to back a defensive fight than a naked offensive one. So there's a way to get everyone on board and to be like, oh, yay, we got to go do this thing. All right. So this technique works because it bypasses scrutiny. Who wants to debate if it was defensive or not? I haven't even heard a conversation about that. It also pressures critics like me because suddenly I become unpatriotic, and it splits the enemy population because we can say things like, we're liberating you from the regime. So, can something be imminent for 40 years? No, it literally can't. Okay. So under the UN Charter and under our international law, imminent actually means something. And it means an attack or a danger that is instant, overwhelming, and leaves no time for deliberation. Now, they may not have had a plan, but they should have had some deliberation before they sallied forth into this disaster. All right, so that's sort of where I'm going to start with. But here's the nut of what I want to discuss today. People in my sphere, and it's very common that I am seeing, is people have gotten into this vibe where they love joking about killing other people. Now, maybe you've got a dark sense of humor. I have a dark sense of humor, but it's that move, that thing where you start to go, oh, we should drone strike the scam call center, or oh, we should drop a bomb on that, or oh, we should I saw a tweet last week that was like, oh, libertarian ethical theory says we can murder our political opponents. No, it does not. Crazy authoritarians might believe that, but that is not what libertarians believe. Libertarians actually subscribe to the non-aggression principle, and that is part of our core philosophy. And we have a massive opportunity right now to pick up people who are disenchanted with the left and the right, because there are a lot of people in MAGA who are like, we voted for Trump because he said no more wars. He said no more interventionism. And now he is acting on behalf of another nation against the interests of Americans. So people disengage from internal moral sanctions through 8 mechanisms. And I want to teach them to you so that you can start to wonder, has your mind actually been hijacked by this thing in your hand? I mean, I was out, in the world over the weekend, and you walk in the airport and everyone is just literally like ensnared in their phones where like they'll walk into you. It's bananas. So here are the 8 mechanisms that they use to manipulate you. So this is basically where you start to dehumanize other people. So it's where otherwise decent people carry out or tolerate harmful, unethical, or violent behavior without guilt, shame, or self-censure. So it's basically when you can no longer morally self-regulate yourself, because that process isn't automatic and constant. You have to check in with yourself all the time and be like, yo, am I turning into some kind of dirtbag? Oh, am I saying things I don't believe because Oh, clout and laughs. Are you like saying, oh, we should murder our frenemies? Oh, we should murder our political opponents in New Hampshire? If you're saying those things, you have a problem and you need to go change your behavior. You need to check in with yourself a little. So, first of all, moral number one, moral justification. So, framing harmful conduct as serving socially, morally, religious, or ideological worthy purposes. This is when you clowns start saying things like the ends justify the means. This is how it works. Then suddenly it's no longer wrong to kill other people because it's noble and protective and necessary for the greater good. Yes, you guys are actually starting to make those arguments. So if that's you, and if you're looking for phrases that can help you identify it and correct your own behavior, you're looking for words like, oh, I believe this is, we got to do this, Carla. It's a necessary evil. We're still the good guys. It's for the greater good. It's protecting our way of life. It's a historical necessity or any other appeal to a higher principle that overrides the actual reality of the harm. Number two, euphemistic labeling. Definition: sanitizing harmful acts with innocuous or technical or bureaucratic language to make them sound benign and professional. How it works: this label disconnects the action from the human cost. This is crap like collateral damage. Instead of, oh, we killed a bunch of schoolgirls, the American government now has the proud extra thing to add to their checkered history that it is now the purveyor of the most school shootings in the history of the world because they bombed a girls' school and then lied about it. So that, of course, was just collateral damage. Oops, didn't mean to do it. Things like enhanced interrogations instead of calling it torture, which is what it is. So here are some modern examples: physical removal instead of expulsion or violence, covenant enforcement instead of coercion, and things like, oh, re-education instead of indoctrination. All right, here's some clues for you. Soft clinical or corporate sounding terms for violent, harmful acts. So new little words for, hurt, kill, exploit, expel. All right. 3, advantageous or palliative comparisons. So this is where you compare someone's harmful behavior with something way worse, making it look trivial or virtuous by contrast. How does that work? Well, at least we're not as bad as X. So the classic example would be, yeah, we bombed them, but look what the other guys are doing. Don't fall for it. What are the cues there? Comparative minimization. Things like, oh, worse things are going to happen if it doesn't. This is better than the alternative. Or it's not genocide when we do it. Like Israel says about Gaza. Number 4, displacement of responsibility. That is when you attribute harmful acts to authorities or to orders or to external pressures. Oh, we love this one. It's like what they did during COVID. Oops, I was just following orders. That, of course, is the Nuremberg defense. It doesn't work. And the clues for that one is I had no choice. The higher ups made me do it. The group or the boss or the ideology demanded it. 5, diffusion of responsibility. So spreading the blame so thinly across the group that no single person feels accountable. It's the everyone is doing it excuse. So that is collective action that dilutes individual guilt. Now, let me remind everyone, libertarianism is a philosophy of individualism. We have seen a perversion with collectivism coming into the movement. But again, you don't get to hide behind everyone is doing it, so why can't we? The classic example is the bystander effect in crowds or on corporate boards. And then modern examples are the whole movement is shifting this way, so we just got to go this way too. No, I will not give up the nap. So the clues are We all did it. It's bigger than me. The group says we should do it, or the community voted. All right, 6, distortion, disregard, and minimization of consequences. This is when you minimize, ignore, or distort or deny harmful effects of one's own actions. If you are behaving in a shady fashion, it's on you. And stop hiding behind little factions and stuff. It's you with your behavior. Stand up and be an individual and take the knocks. So how this one works is if the damage is invisible, trivial, or exaggerated, then the guilt doesn't activate. So this is the one where they go, well, that person deserved it, or no one really got hurt. So what are the clues for distortion, discard, or minimization of consequences? Is when people say things like, it's not that bad, or they'll get over it, or you're just exaggerating your victimhood, or what was the harm that was really done? That, again, is a problem. Number 7, dehumanization. This is where you strip the victims of human qualities so they seem subhuman, deserving of the mistreatment, or not fully entitled to moral consideration. Now, whether you're doing that with a different religion, or you're doing it with a different gender, or you're doing it with a neighbor you don't like, this is where you block empathy, where the target is no longer one of us. So the classic example, of course, from propaganda over the years, we're using terms like invading species, vermin, cockroaches, degenerates, parasites. So those are the clues. There are things like animal metaphors, disease language. They're not like us, and mocking humanity. Now, I've seen this one deployed on all sides in the political spectrum. None of you are above it, but you're all doing it. And I suggest you stop. Number 8, the last one, as we're about to run out of time here. The attribution of blame, or blaming or devaluing the victim. So blaming victims for bringing the harm on themselves. They asked for it, they provoked it, they deserved it. This is where the perpetrator becomes the aggrieved party and responsibility flips. This is where you tell people they deserve it, they should have gotten cyberbullied, the undesirables threaten our culture, they brought this upon themselves. The clues there are things like saying they had it coming, they started it, they provoked us, they can't blame us for our reaction. So if you want to learn how to spot these for yourself, here is the 4-part practical framework. This is a checklist. So, reconstruct of the act. Is the harm being reframed as good, sanitized, or minor by comparison? 2, are you obscuring agency? Is responsibility being shifted to someone or something else, or spread so thin that no one is to blame? 3, distorting outcomes. Are consequences being downplayed or ignored? And number 4 is devaluing targets. Are the victims being dehumanized or blamed? So when you're not quite sure what's going on and whether your noggin is being manipulated, ask yourself, what exactly is being done to whom, by which I mean force clarity, who is responsible, and how are people behaving, who's dropping the bombs, who started it? Check agency and diffusion, displacement. And number 3, how are the harmed people being described? So look for dehumanization or blame. I wish I had more time because obviously I'm fired up about this topic, but I will leave you with that for this week. You can always go to my website, carlagericke.com. I save a lot of these conversations when I have them with the LLMs. I, of course, have a ton of my own content up there. All my shows are there. I have opinions, and I would appreciate a subscribe or follow if you enjoyed this episode. What is war good? What is war good for? Absolutely nothing. But these days, it's good to ensnare your attention so that they can profit from you. I wish you all peace, love, and understanding. I'll be back again next week. All right. Well, I got so mad, my hair went mad. All right. Thanks for joining me, guys. I will see everyone again next week, where I will have Aaron Day on the show to talk about his independent Senate race.